Everybody, Mr. Clyburn asked that we begin this session with the invocation, and so we're going to go to the throne of grace very fast, very quick. Dear God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity together, God, as one unified body, God, just to give our administrator a chance to come before the citizens, God, and go against every accusation that was brought up against him and bring clarity, God, and so that we can stand behind him and know that we're supporting him for the right reasons. And God, we hope that this change the hearts of some of the people that are fighting against him. God, please do so and direct this. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Well, I'm going to say, first of all, I'm not looking to change anybody's mind. I think everyone knows when people make their minds up, it's for reasons other than what we're here for. So I'm just here because, well, I'm just going to start just by telling you good evening. Good evening. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Tony Clyburn. I'm Dillon County Administrator. And I want to begin by telling you why we are here. On Wednesday, May 27th, with a 4-2 vote and one abstaining, the Dillon County Council decided to terminate my contract for employment as Dillon County Administrator. They did this by leveling several baseless accusations to the public, and then made a decision without allowing me the opportunity to respond. Anyone who understands the basic tenets of fairness knows just how unfair it is to be accused of something publicly and not be given the chance to respond. So I am here today to present you with factual information that explains each and every one of these allegations. And you, the citizens of Dillon County, can decide for yourself the real reason for my termination. And I'm sure that you will agree with me that it had nothing to do with my competence or job performance, and everything to do with favoritism, corruption, and the fight for power that we all know, sitting in here, have gripped this county for decades. So here we are. I will read to you each allegation and present to you a set of facts and public documents, if available, that explains that allegation. Those of you who have booklets that were given out earlier will be able to easily follow along. Everyone else will be able to request them by email. Now let us begin. Number 1, failure to perform all statutory duties of county administrator under the council administrator form of government and other lawful duties requested of him by the Dillon County Council as required by the employment agreement contract, and failure to perform and abide by the terms of employment agreement. See included items below. Failure to perform powers of duties of County Administrator and Home Rule Act 4-9-620. See included items below. This is nothing more than a summary of the other allegations listed below, and they are simply a way of saying that I did not do my job as required by my contract, and they specify below. Now the next two don't actually deserve explanation, but I'll go ahead and explain this to you. Number 3 says, not domiciled in Dillon County in violation of employment agreement or contract as required by contract. I was hired on November 16, 2018, on January 4th. After I received my contract for the new year, I took out a year lease and paid regularly, thus establishing domicile. I'm not required to buy a house in Dillon County. And furthermore, I did not violate my contract by spending nights out of town. Yes, I drove almost every weekend and several weeknights to Georgetown, South Carolina, but I neither moved there nor paid any type of rent or utilities. That's a resident of my 68-year-old aunt with stage 4 lung cancer, who I went to spend time with because very few of others could come around her during this COVID-19 pandemic. And that's when it started. So yes, I went there quite often, and I still do, and I will not stop. Not sure what's wrong with helping out a family member during this pandemic, especially since there's no clause in my contract that you see attached that says I can't spend nights out of town. It's ridiculous and insulting. And the fact that they would publish this address on social media should tell you all you need to know about their intentions. As a matter of fact, recent past administrators have lived all the way in Columbia and have even driven the county vehicle every day to Marion, not a word said. And furthermore, there's not a single word in my contract that says I can't drive the county vehicle out of town and I cannot spend nights out of town. That's ridiculous. And so you see the employment contract I have parts highlighted that do say what they can remove me for with cause, and I fit none of these different causes. Number 4, not documenting work or absences from work in violation of employment agreement. This accusation is equally insulting. They are attempting to paint me as lazy and unwilling to do my job. They are saying that I either am not showing up or that I show up late and leave early. First of all, my job isn't confined to the desk of my office. As county administrator, my job is to tend to the business of the county. There are days that require me to come in after 8:30 because of meetings, scheduled events, conferences, and just visiting offices all over the county. If you ask people, and some of them are here, that work in our county buildings like the animal shelter, 911, all the fire stations from Fire Station 9 down in Oak Grove all the way to Fire Station 5 in Lakeview, EMS, clerk of court, county landfill, roads and bridges, code enforcement, and even our state agencies that reside in our buildings like Medicaid, DSS, juvenile justice, and the health department. They will tell you that they have never had a county administrator that took the time to not only visit these offices regularly, but actually take an interest in the well-being of those buildings and the people that work in them. I've explained many times to council members that my job isn't a desk job where I push papers and wait for them to give orders. Now, Councilman Stevie Grice told me himself, and I quote, "How about when you have meetings out of town, have them schedule them in the afternoon so you can come to the office and check in first?" That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous, and it's borderline harassment. And don't be fooled, not a single Dillon County administrator before me has ever filled out a timesheet or been questioned about the way that they conduct their hours. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to go over these next 3 together. Number 5, gave 2% raise to county employees not provided for in the budget, approximately $108,000 per year. Number 6, gave individual raises to employees not provided for in the budget. And number 7, hired employee to a full-time position that did not previously exist and not in the budget. Now, there's been a lot of fuss made about the fact that I gave raises to one of the lowest paid group of county workers in the state, coming from one of the highest paid county councils in the state. Fact is, I have the data to show that not only is there room in the budget for these raises, but we are actually going to be about $177,000 under budget once we do payroll for the rest of the fiscal year. Let me repeat that. Not only did I not go over budget, we will end up with over $177,000 remaining in the budget for payroll. Second point I want to make about this is that I am under no obligation to get permission from county council for any raises that I give as long as they come under budget. In fact, it was Councilman Grice who asked me to give out some of these raises, some of these personal raises. He came to my office literally one day screaming and yelling at Richard Gaddy to give certain people raises. So this 2% raise and the individual raises were never a problem, and neither was the position that went from part-time to full-time. By the way, let me tell you one fun fact. I made sure every eligible employee got a 2% pay raise, except for one. I guess you can figure out who that is. That's me. I'm the only one who did not get a raise. And I did that on purpose, because it's never about me. It was about the workers that work here and the fact that they are very underpaid. So let me move to the next one. And you can see where I have what we call a budget tracker for payroll and benefits. Every 2 weeks, I submit to our finance department. They submit to me a tracking sheet that tells me how we're tracking and how we're going to spend money on payroll. And this is what we come up with. And as it says right here, these are public information, $177,000 and $177,624 under budget. Okay? Number 8, failed to advertise for employee position and for position of secretary at landfill. I don't need to go into this because you can see from the attachment, there's an email from Dillon Herald that plainly states that I did apply for, that I did advertise that job. Number 9, this is a funny one. Using economic development fund in budget to fund general county operations and budget. This is ridiculously absurd. Yes, we use the Economic Development Fund in the general funds. But you know what? As you can see from the attachments, in 2016, 2017, we used $300,000. In 2017, 2018, we used $700,000. In 2018, 2019, we used $950,000. And in 2019, 2020, my first year of doing the budget, I didn't go up. I kept it at $950,000 just like the year before. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that I received a letter that you can read on the next pages from Brandon Norris, our attorney, who helps us write all of our economic development documents. You can see where he says that it is perfectly fine to use the Economic Development Fund for any legal purposes. It was fine when Clay Young did it, it was fine when Rodney Berry did it, and it's fine when I did it. But the most important thing about that is that they, the county council, are the ones who voted unanimously to approve the budget, which clearly had the Economic Development Fund in it. County council approved it in 3 readings and a budget workshop and never once voiced a concern. You know why? Because it's perfectly legal. So you can look at these documents and you can see all about that. Number 10, allow an employee to continue to receive $8,000 paid while not working after he was denied workers' comp. In your booklet, you can see a memo from our risk manager who handles these cases. She had no idea that this was happening. And it was a clear error on her part that she admits. She found out on August 31st, 2019. You know when it stopped? August 31st, 2019. Clearly an error on the part of one of my staff members that was corrected immediately. But here's the interesting part about this one. You know how Councilman Grice found out about this? I called him that day out of transparency and told him what was going on. So I had nothing to hide. There was nothing wrong, nothing that I did on purpose about that. The next one, number 11, and this is pay the salary supervisor overtime for over a year. Honestly, I almost laughed when they read this one out in the meeting. When I arrived in 2018, that supervisor in question was already being paid overtime for 4 years before I got here. I'm the one who stopped it. Not only that, he wasn't even designated as a salaried employee until I changed the designation. And you can see from the attachment that I was the one who changed that designation. Let me repeat. He was being paid overtime 4 years before I arrived. And not only that, he was not even being paid salary until I changed it. And why did it take me so long to change it? I had no idea this was going on until I was told several months after I had been hired, and I fixed it. Now this one is clearly a case of me being penalized for something that had been occurring for years that I actually tried to fix and did fix. And you can see, and I have redacted the name and position, but you can see clearly that on January 6, 2020, I'm the one who changed that to a salary employee. Number 12, allow contaminated dirt to come into landfill without permission. Had to pay to remove it. Now this one is the only one of these claims that has at least some merit. We were supposed to be looking at doing a contract, a long-term contract, to accept dirt from a company to use in the landfill. Council didn't want to do a long-term contract at that time. They wanted to try to see what the company was about. So a few weeks later, the landfill supervisor at the time said we needed a little more dirt to cover parts of the landfill for inspection. So I called this company and asked if they could bring just a little to see what that dirt was like. They brought in just 3 truckloads, and when it was tested, we found out it was contaminated. Now we had to pay approximately $1,100 to remove it. It was an honest mistake. And we actually had this discussion about it in the council meeting where I explained all of this to them. Now the county attorney has already said that there's nothing improper about me accepting a one-time load of dirt as long as I didn't sign a long-term contract, which I didn't. Number 13, has never implemented business registration fee or bill insurance on structural fires, both in budget ordinance. Okay, so with the business registration fee, we just voted on this into existence only a few months ago. I think you remember maybe 4 months, 5 months ago maybe, 4 months ago. Charging $20 for every business in Dillon County. So when we tried to put it together, we noticed that a state ordinance said that we couldn't go over $15 per business. This is something that I was looking to bring back in front of county council before this whole thing with the termination of my contract started. Not only that, there's not a line item in the budget for this. That's just plain false. And you can see the budget, and you can also see the ordinance from on the next page where it says this is an administration fee that cannot exceed $15. And you see the next page for the 2019-2020 budget where it is not one of the line items. Now, as far as billing the insurance, Moses Hayward actually did implement this back in August. We talked about this. And I have one of my fire chiefs that can back this up. And he's billed for reimbursement, and the company just hasn't reimbursed us yet. You can see here a copy of the emails that he sent out back in August and February that demonstrate the fact that he actually did implement this program. So once again, they're flat out wrong about this one. You can see those emails right there. Number 14, not communicating with PDRTA and other stakeholders and returning calls to commerce. This is a flat out false claim. They're trying to blame the delay of public transportation to this area on me. In fact, I fought very hard, as many of you know, to get county council to approve this. And in the council meeting in November, it was finally approved. But it was Councilman Stevie Grice who refused to sign the agreement. Instead, he tried to rescind his vote. And many of you here remember that. It was Jared Taylor, who's here today, from the town of Latta, who had to call and host a meeting with Don Strickland of the PDRTA, Stevie Grice, and myself at King's Pizza in Latta, where we had to convince Stevie not to rescind his vote. And even at that time, he would not sign the agreement the council had already voted to approve until the December meeting. This is what caused a delay in the public transportation project. This is why the Department of Commerce started hesitating, because they were afraid that Dillon County wouldn't support it long term. So they wanted me to guarantee that they would raise taxes, which I couldn't. And after talking with council members, I wrote Department of Commerce, Department of Transportation, and PDRTA an email explaining this. And you can see that email where I wrote that we appreciate the willingness of the Department of Commerce to join us. However, we are unable to guarantee funding Dillon County past 3-year benchmark, especially before the service begins. And we were unable to actually raise taxes for this purpose. And despite all of this, I did continue to fight forward for this project. And as you can see from the next email, the project is ready to go. It was delayed further due to the coronavirus pandemic and the fact that PDRTA was not allowed by law to continue holding huge job fairs and training. So that project is still on board, despite some of the opposition from council that I faced. Number 15, and this is the big one here. Directed work from insurance proceeds without competitive bids or proposals and in conflict of interest, over $100,000. Now this one is borderline defamation because they're flat out accusing me of something illegal when they actually know that it's not illegal. They know that it's not true. The first document is a letter from our insurance carrier stating that we do not have to submit bids for insurance jobs. And Councilman Archie Scott, the one who's pushing this one, knows this because he's the one who actually called this same guy who told him in plain words that it was perfectly legal and it's always been done, not only in Dillon County, but in every one of their other clients in the state. In fact, in Dillon County history, we have never once bid on insurance jobs, not once. And I've included an example of the previous administrator. He did the exact same thing I did, except he gave out 84% of the jobs to one contractor that he knew personally. You can see that right through the letter, 84%. The next sheet shows what I did for Hurricane Florence. I decided to share the work equally with properly licensed contractors in Dillon County. And now the company in question, the supposed conflict of interest, is Trucker Group, which is owned by a friend of mine. So instead of giving him a huge chunk of the work, and you can see on that page he only received 7% of the work from Hurricane Florence. Now, I want you to tell me, you look at the previous page that shows 84%, and you look at that next page that shows 7%. Tell me which one looks like a conflict of interest. In fact, I asked Councilman Grice himself about including Troika with the other local contractors, and his answer was this: it's fine as long as you don't give him too much. Now ask yourself, is 7% compared to those other contractors too much? Especially, another fact, that he's considered a DBE, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, meaning that he's actually entitled to at least 10% of the work, something Archie Scott knows because he signed it himself in 2011. So finally, once again, an allegation with no merits. And you can see that from these documents. Now, I hope I've provided some clarity here with these allegations, and I'm not going to take up much more of your time before I finish. I want to address another ongoing narrative that certain members of council are trying to build, and that's this current budget crisis. On Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020, County Council Chairman Stevie Grice called an emergency meeting to discuss budgetary concerns for Dillon County. And yes, we have some real concerns. Dillon County is not in good shape currently. Was he attempting to blame this on me when there are truly some unprecedented and unexpected circumstances that cause this? Now, the primary thing that is being alleged is that I approved employee raises, causing our finances to just go into a tailspin. So about these raises and what effect they actually had. The sheet provided shows the raises, all the raises, and how much they cost this county this fiscal year, how much they'll cost. And as you can see, when you include salary and benefits, the individual and county-wide 2% raise will cost this county a total of $135,000. Now, the next sheet shows you a list of funds that we're expecting from the state of South Carolina, much of which have, under normal circumstances, would have arrived already. Now, these past due funds from April and May total $808,000. And if you include the funds that from June, there will be another $320,000, totaling over $1.1 million. And you can see for yourself, those raises for $135,000 are not even close to the reason why we're in the shape that we're in right now. It's more because of the state of South Carolina, because of drop in staff due to the pandemic. They've been very slow to send money that we're owed. And that's happening in every county in South Carolina, not just here in Dillon County. We're not the only ones struggling here. This is statewide. But yet, this is being attempted to be painted as some kind of way that I was incompetent and spent a lot of money. We don't have a spending problem. It's a revenue problem. Everything we've done in this budget that I've made sure we spent has been on budget. In fact, we're actually running under budget. That's not the problem. The problem is the revenue, and it's not county council's fault. It's not my fault. It's not the county broker's fault. The state of South Carolina, it's not really their fault. They just have had a hard time getting this money sent to Dillon County. Now, in closing, I just want to thank you once again for taking the time to hear not just my side of the story, but the actual truth, the verifiable truth that can be backed up with public documents. And I would just ask that you use these facts to make your decision as to whether Dillon County Council made their decision based solely on my job performance or for other reasons. So at this time, I want to open up for questions. And again, I have nothing to hide, and I just want to answer any kind of questions you want to ask.
Do you think that they're using the COVID problems as a way to push you out?
Well, I would hate to accuse someone of doing that. But it seems like right now is an opportune time because we have these issues financially. It seems like a very opportune time to just say, hey, look, this guy's not doing his job. We don't have a lot of money. When in actuality, it's just going on all across the country as well as the state. So,
I mean, you got pretty good stuff. That's one of the best books I've ever seen with, taking care of what we were accused of, all 15 points. You answered all 15 points. what's the one thing about this meeting today that you want to get out to the public of Dillon and let them know, a kind of synopsis of all that?
Listen, this is not about me and my job. This is about the people in their county, okay? I'm going to be fine. This is about making sure the people know the truth. And as long as you have people in positions that are elected, oftentimes illegally, as long as you have these people in these positions, you are going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you may have another 10 county administrators in the next 10 years. And so, it's not about me. It's about the fact that we have a county that has a lot of potential. This is a beautiful county. It's a lot of potential. A lot of things can happen right for this county. But we can't just build an inland port and say, we're here. We have to actually do the work to make sure that people want to come to this county and support this county. And so that's really all I want people to know is that, look, I've really enjoyed my job, okay? I can't think of one day that I actually dread coming to work when I was working here. Ups and downs, except for one time. And that's after county council level accusations and never gave me a chance to answer. That's the only thing that really bothered me about the whole time I was here. So I just want to thank everyone for at least taking the time to listen to what we're talking about here and listen to what has really gone on in Dillon County since I've been here.
I mean, some of that's real nitpicky stuff. Do you think if a couple of former people in your position would have did the same thing, that they wouldn't be having a press conference today?
Listen, I don't have to think it. You know, it's clear. There are things here that other county administrators have done and have never heard a word about. So, you know, it's not something I have to, you know, think about. It's something that everyone here knows this. Mr. Bethay.
My name is Willie Bethay. My question to you is, if county council were to decide to rehire you, would you accept the position?
I would accept the position under different circumstances. You know, county council will have to realize that it doesn't matter how good of a job I try to do or anyone else that works in this county. We have firemen here that, I mean, they risk their lives more than you know. You have other people in this county that do everything they can do. But until we have better leadership, this county isn't going anywhere. So the answer to your question is yes, but it would be under some different circumstances. Or I'd be out again. I mean, it's just that simple. Mr. Taylor.
Chair Taylor, and I'm sorry I had to type this up because I typed it out as we were going along so I could keep up with myself. You make a really compelling argument in your rebuttal of all your accusations based off of the paperwork you handed out. I've got 3 questions that I thought about as we went along. Would you like all 3 of them at one time?
Let me do one at a time.
One at a time.
I'm a little old.
Well, my first question, was any of the accusations that you were fired for brought up throughout your years of service?
Yes. In fact, the one about me not coming to work was brought up, as I mentioned, and I explained to them again that, hey, my job isn't to be here from 8:30 to 5 waiting on you to stand over me and give me instructions. My job is to be out in the county, making sure the county workers will feel comfortable working and making sure that things are getting done. You know, I spent time on the roads, actually, with the roads and bridges while they're doing certain projects. I spent a lot of time, and you're not going to get any other county administrator to tell you that they spend as much time as I spent at that landfill, in the mud, making sure things were going right. So my job isn't to be sitting at the desk, and I explained that to members of council. So yes, they brought that up. They brought the raises, and I kept explaining to them that these raises were in budget. They brought it up. I showed them the budget tracking. Still didn't care. They still chose to put these things in here. The thing about the Economic Development Fund, we talked about that last month, 2 months ago, and this letter that I showed you, this attorney emailed every single councilman this letter. Councilman McLeod. Every single councilman. Everyone got this letter. They know that there's nothing wrong with that. That's why I don't understand why they even put it in here, knowing that they're wrong about this.
That leads kind of sort of into my second question. Why do you think these specific allegations were used to
That's a very good question. It's not about each allegation. It's about painting a picture. The picture that they're trying to paint is that I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to financial matters. They're trying to paint the picture that it's me who broke this county that's been struggling for the past, how many years? 20, 30, 50? But they're trying to paint that picture that I'm the one that's responsible. And so everything you see in here, when you see paid a guy overtime for over a year, I didn't know that's ridiculous. $8,000. They said that I had to get the dirt removed, we had to pay for it. So you got to look at the words that they're using. It's all about painting a picture that I'm costing the county money. When in fact, if you look at the things that I've done in this county, I've actually saved the county a lot of money. I've actually saved the county a lot of expenses when it comes to repairs. You know, we were spending $600,000 a year on average repairs at the landfill. This year we ended up spending about $420, which is still too much, but it's coming down drastically, okay? So that's why they're leveling these accusations, because they're all something having to do with financial.
My last question, and before I sit down, thank you for answering them. Can you specifically talk about the real reasons you think you're facing these allegations of termination?
Listen, and I'm going to speak into this camera. Everyone out there knows the things that are going on in Dillon County. Everyone out there knows the type of corruption, the type of favoritism, the type of power grabs that you have in this county. Everyone knows it. I don't think there's a single person in this room and a single person watching this video who doesn't know exactly what goes on in Dillon County. But anyone who has ever come in contact with me knows that that's something I don't go for. They're not going to tell me to fall in line with those kind of games. I don't have to. I'm not going to. And if it's required of me to come back to work, that I have to fall in line, I won't do it. Never. Because that's just not who I am.
Yeah, the question I got about you traveling back and forth with the vehicle. Now, the previous administrator, they gave him a vehicle. So my question is, did you burn both gas traveling back and forth, or did that vehicle cost the county more than to give a brand new vehicle away?
Let me answer that question. That's interesting you brought that up. Yes, as I said, I travel in and out of town a lot. But the other thing about that, I bought my own gas whenever I travel. Now, I want you to find another county administrator who actually bought their own gas when they left out of town. I bought my own gas. So that's really not a question. Also, you know, there's nothing in my contract that stipulates that I can come in and out of town with a county vehicle. Do it all the time. Everyone else has done it all the time. Had another county administrator who took the vehicle to Washington, D.C., and I think he had a wreck. I mean, so we have had county administrators take these vehicles everywhere.
Right.
And it's not something I ever tried to hide. And that's something that never actually came to me about. Any other questions? Well, listen, I really want to thank everyone for tuning in and for the questions. And, well, I may have another one.
All right. Do you think this will make a difference? Do you think will this have an effect on the decision making?
Listen, let me tell you, I'm going to say this again. It's not about me and my job, okay? I'm going to be fine. I'm fine. I'm not worried about that, okay? I never was. Since the day I got here, I never was worried about my job. And I'm still not, okay? This is not an attempt to sway anyone. We all know the decision has been made. You know, some of these councilmen have their marching orders from somewhere else, not from their own minds. Okay, so I don't expect this to change anything. What I do expect it to do is to actually provide some factual information. I expect it to provide some proof that we all need that these accusations are baseless. That's all this is really for. But thank you for that.
Are some of these council members up for election, would you think?
Yes.
Talk about that real quick.
Okay, so I don't want to get too much into theory here. I like to deal in facts. But I think it's, I don't believe in too much consequences. But I just think it's a really eerie consequence that this was done and I was not allowed a chance to respond to these accusations before the elections coming up on Tuesday, the 9th, okay? I mean, that can't be just a coincidence.
I have one question, if I could.
Yes.
I know you, as a county administrator, are you given the power to hire and fire certain people, or do you hire who the county council must ask you to hire or fire?
Let me get to that question.
Okay.
All right, because that's a very good question. But back to your question about, you know, the timing and everything like that. Yes, you know, it's again, you're talking about a situation that's been going on for decades. Everyone is tired of it. Everyone in this county is sick and tired of the things that's been going on. And they know what's going on. They just don't feel like they have a voice to let everyone else know and to try to do something about it, okay? But yes, it's very convenient that we had this hearing. I was not allowed a chance to respond, and so we have elections on the 9th, okay? It's also not a coincidence that now after the 9th, they're going to go ahead and do the public hearing for the final termination on the 17th. So a lot of these things happen to try to protect certain people, and I think everyone knows that, okay? Now, to your question about hiring and firing, I am supposed to have the authority to hire and to fire, okay? Now, firing is not something I like to do, and in fact, it's not happened very often while I've been here. I don't like doing it, but that's something I have the authority to do myself. However, as everyone also knows, we have a very heavily influenced county government by council. And they try to influence everything from the hiring to who gets raises, to who gets fired. You know, that whole thing about me hiring the person at the landfill without actually doing an advertisement, I didn't want to bring this up, but the real reason that was such an issue is because the person that was hired was not the person they wanted. The person who was there previously wanted to come back. And she happens to be the granddaughter of somebody who works with Dillon County, who's very popular with some of the councilmen. And so, you know, that's why that happened. That's why that's in there. And I didn't budge. And so here we are. It's in my accusations.
To pick back on the answer you just gave about the landfill, the person that tried to come back, he actually told you they quit.
Okay, so that person who, and I didn't really want to get into HR matters, and I really don't want to get into that.
Okay.
But yes, we had somebody quit and want to come back, and that's really, and I don't know why I'm obligated to take somebody back after I've hired someone else. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yes.
Mr. Clyburn, could we say that the allegation that is charged against you is orchestrated by an outside entity versus those 4 or 5 that's on the council?
So,
As in the fabulous 5 that so-called run Dillon County?
let me just say this. I'm not going to get into anything like that right now, except to say that there is going to be a lot of news headlines in the next couple of months concerning some very influential people in Dillon County. I'm going to leave it at that. Yes, sir.
Bob, you stated that you felt, or it was not a coincidence that they terminated your contract around election time. Is there a reason that you feel that they terminated your contract because of the election? Was there some kind of investigation going on, or?
I know what you're getting at. Listen, I'm not going to get into that. But what I will say, though, is I need for all of you to show up at a hearing on June 11th, Thursday, about illegal vote harvesting. something that I've been very vocal about since I've been here, okay? And someone was caught red-handed, illegal vote harvesting. And I've made my voice heard about that. And there have been people who have not been very happy about that. So I'll just leave it at that. But again, we're talking about some criminal matters here. I don't want to get into any of that right now. But just know that we do have a hearing on June the 11th. What time is that hearing? 9 o'clock in the morning, June 11th.
Where?
On Thursday.
Where is it?
At the voter registration office.
You also referred to a hearing on the 17th?
The hearing on the 17th is a hearing for my termination, my final termination, yes.
And where is that?
They're on
No, I think that's going to be at the county council.
Or
building,
the
isn't it?
courthouse.
At the courthouse, it's at the courthouse.
the 17th, will you remain the rest of the year, or that'll be your last day?
No, that'll be the last day.
You have to leave it.
Yeah, that'll be the last day. That'll be the last day. Any other questions? I'm full of answers.
I got it.
Mr. Clyburn, before the allegations were brought up in the meeting the other week, were you written up in any way, form, shape, or fashion?
I've never had a
prior to
write-up.
that?
Never had a write-up.
So nobody ever came to you and had a verbal?
Oh, I've had some verbal, again, about the whole thing about me not checking in the mornings. That's been something that has kind of stuck with them. You know, one thing about that, some mornings I do get there 8:29, 8:25, 8:30. I'll always see a councilman, one, two, or three, riding by to see what time I get there. Okay? It's not coincidence. We know that. You know, and we'll even have one or two calling the office. What time did he get in? And in fact, I don't think anybody that's in this room was there. You know, I had a couple of councilmen follow me to a meeting in the neighborhood about a ditch and about the park in Newtown. And they followed me to see where I was and to see who was there. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I'm going through as far as, you know, the time that I spend in Dillon County and the time I spend in my office.
So they were following you around?
Yes,
That's
follow me.
like what you do to a cheating ex-wife or something.
Right, and just follow me. I was on a porch. We had a meeting with some residents about the park, that they had some concerns about people staying out late in the park, and they had some concerns about a ditch in the neighborhood. And I see one of the councilmen ride by once, rode by twice, rode by a third time slowly. And then he came back 5 minutes later, and then he, followed by another councilman, rode by again. So those are the kind of things that they've been doing.
It's at the county council office at 9 a.m.
Okay, so the county council office, 9 a.m. on the 17th. Yes.
Can we petition for that to be held in a larger space due to social distancing?
I'm not sure about that,
Is it a
to be
public
honest
hearing?
with you. It's a public hearing, yeah. It's a public hearing. And we all know, look, we all know that space is very small. And we also know that it's not advantageous to certain members of council to have a lot of people there showing support. You know, they don't want to have that. You know, we could always have it at the Judicial Center, and we could fit a lot of people in there and still social distance. But in that county council chambers, we could probably only get outside of county council another maybe 10, 15 people, 10, 12 people. So I would like for it to be in a bigger venue, but I'm not sure if we can make that happen.
So
Yes.
what time, you said 9 o'clock that morning?
9 o'clock.
You couldn't do it in the evening, it'd be better for a lot of people that, was working.
I'm not the one that said it.
Who says it?
You're chairman of council.
Now you talking about the 17th, on the 17th?
On the 17th.
9 in the morning?
Wednesday, 9 o'clock on the 17th. Yes, sir.
Do you think the intent of the time was to?
I don't know. I don't
People from
know.
coming?
Look, listen, I don't want to speculate. Again, I don't want to speculate about that because, you know, they can have it in the evening, they can have it in the afternoon, they can have it in the morning. They're going to still get people coming, trying to be there. So I don't think, I don't really speculate about that. That's it.
Thank you very much.
The hearing on the 11th, you said it's going to be at the voter registration office?
That hearing on the 11th is going to be at the voter registration office concerning some absentee ballots that are being challenged.
Is there a conference room in that building?
No,
How can you have it? How can you have a?
I don't know. That's where they set the meeting.
When y'all have the challenge, it'll just have to be the one accused and the accuser and the board probably at that meeting, right?
No, I think it's public, right? Yeah, it's public.
It's public.
It's a public
9
meeting.
o'clock on the 17th?
No, we're talking about the one at the voter registration office.
Oh, okay. 9
That's a
o'clock.
public meeting as well.
Yeah,
That's a public hearing.
yeah.
The one on the 11th. Let's not get confused. Okay, let me just repeat this so people don't get confused. On Thursday, June 11th, there will be a public hearing at the voter registration office concerning the challenge of absentee ballots. That following week, on Wednesday, June the 17th, will be the public hearing concerning the termination of my contract. And that will be at the county council office, county council building.
Okay, again, voter registration office, there's no meeting place, but they're gonna have a hearing.
Look, I didn't say that.
And who said that?
I think the state election board said that. The election commission set that meeting, so that's something that needs to be taken up with them.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying you have a hearing, you're not having a meeting space.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me either. But at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and close. But again, I do want to thank you for coming out, and I do appreciate you taking the time to hear, my side of this thing. And again, not only my side, but just the truth. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Can you email